If you are selling a home, what are the costs associated with it? We get asked this all the time. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Hey, I'm Christina Brown here with the Brown team at Sage Door Realty. First of all, keep in mind that every expense, anything can be negotiated. So I am just covering what are typical closing costs for a seller. Seller has closing costs, buyer has closing costs. The costs are very different. The number one thing is the sellers pay for taxes for their portion of time that they have owned the home. If they close on May 1st, they are only paying taxes through May 1st. The rest of the year would be due at the end of the year by the buyer. How we work this out is here in our area, counties will not take partial payments, so those funds are taken from the seller, credited or given to the buyer at closing, then the buyer will pay the full bill at the end of the year. So when you are selling and you are at closing, it's all done, you don't pay any more taxes. It's all settled at the closing table. So that's the number one expense. The number two expense is if you have any payoffs, if you have a mortgage, if you have a second mortgage, a home equity line of credit, anything where the house is collateral, where it requires to be paid off at closing, those funds are also collected and paid out at closing. You have other expenses, other judgments, liens, collections, things that come up on title. Those things are also collected and paid for at closing. The other thing that is prorated similar to taxes are HOA fees. Typically, in a lot of areas, sellers are paying for a whole year up front. So any unused portions of HOA dues are actually credited back to the seller and charged to the buyer. So kind of the opposite of taxes. The seller will actually get a credit for those types of things. It is the seller's responsibility to give free and clear title to the buyer, typically in the contract. Therefore, the seller pays for the title search and for title insurance to ensure that they are giving the buyer a home free of encumbrances. And the next fee is when you have payoffs. A lot of times there's wire fees and payoff fees and things that are charged and involved either through the title company or your mortgage company. Typically both are charging fees to pass this money back and forth. And then if you are here in the state of Missouri, there is an additional closing protection fee that is a required state fee, and that is $25 per title company involved in the transaction. Many states don't have that. That's a unique thing to Missouri. Now, costs that also typically come up, of course, is for the seller to pay the listing agent's commission. So that is covered in the listing agreement. And then when a buyer makes an offer, usually here, buyers are going to ask you to pay their agents. Again, it's all negotiable, but typically that's what you're going to see. Other costs could be things negotiated in if a buyer negotiates for you, the seller, to pay any additional of their closing costs, or if they ask you to purchase a home warranty. Again, those things are optional. You do not have to agree to it. It's all negotiable when you are negotiating the offer. Taxes, title fees, payoffs, wire fees, commissions, those are what are typical fees that a seller would pay at closing. So I hope this helps. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to help you. Have a great day.